Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man? They say murder three. Strange things that happen here. How stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree?
Welcome to Strange Things, broadcasting from the Arkanasa Radio Studios in Laredo, Texas. And welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chris James. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about death by fluoride. Before I get started on this full show rant, I'm looking for ghost and UFO sightings. If you've seen a ghost and you live in Laredo, Texas area, or you've seen a UFO, I'm looking for your stories. You can send them to me at strangethings@arkanasa.com. I'm also looking for any cryptid sightings. Say you saw a Bigfoot or chupacabras or some other kind of a bizarre creature. If you saw it and you can't explain it, send me a message and I'll put you in my next book. The next book will be called Paranormal Laredo. And like I said, it's just for anything within about 20 miles of the Laredo town. Since my Thanksgiving poem went over so well, I thought I'd do a Christmas poem also. This one came out in the 60s, back when Mad Magazine was funny. Oh goodness, oh gracious, oh golly, oh gee, I wonder what all the commotion can be. Someone is shouting and cursing at me. Ah, Santa is caught in my chimney. He's sweating and fuming and screaming aloud. Soon he will gather a very big crowd. Such terrible language should not be allowed. But Santa is caught in my chimney. He's coughing and choking and full of disgust. His coat is all dirty and all full of dust. I think his suspenders are starting to bust. Yes, Santa is caught in my chimney. I feel that his temper is starting to show. His nose is all red and his cheeks are aglow. Perhaps I should put out that fire below, because Santa is caught in my chimney. That was from the Mad Magazine back in the 1960s. Another poem that my brother loved and was always repeating each year. I really hate doing a show like this one. I did a show called Drink Your Poison, March 3rd, 2017. It is no longer available on strangethings.podomatic.com, but you can track it down on YouTube. You'll have to type in the whole show name. Strange Things with Chris James, and then look for the skull and crossbones. Just like the one for this show. Ever since then, me and my wife have to stop and read every ingredient label on any food we buy. There are several things we look for, and if found, we don't buy that product. Bluebell ice cream is off our diet. Why? It contains high fructose corn syrup, and to that I say nay, nay. That is number one thing we look for because it's in everything from peanut butter to pie dough. Fructose promotes visceral fat accumulation. Visceral fat surrounds your organs and is the most harmful type of fat. It's linked to health issues like diabetes, heart disease, and now you have to look for a new name, corn sugar, which is an old trick from the book 1984. High fructose corn syrup is an industrial food product and far from natural or a naturally occurring substance. It is extracted from corn stalks through a process that is so secret that they would probably kill anybody who found out how it's done. Well, maybe not, but that sounded good. Not the corn kernels, the stalk. You know, that yummy part us humans don't eat until now. It's soaked in chemicals to make it sweet. High doses of free fructose have been proven to literally punch holes in the intestinal lining, allowing nasty byproducts of toxic gut bacteria and particularly disgusting food proteins to enter your bloodstream and trigger the inflammation that we know is at the root of obesity, diabetes, cancer, heart disease, dementia, and accelerated aging. Hydrogenated anything is out of our shopping cart as well. Hydrogenated oil is made by forcing hydrogen gas into oil at high pressure. Both animal and vegetable fats can be and are hydrogenated. In general, the more solid the oil is, the more hydrogenated it is. How much hydrogen do you want in your body? Following the determination that trans fats and hydrogenated oils are bad for you, the FDA decided to start phasing them out of all processed food and food products. After June 18, 2018, no new foods were allowed to include a partially hydrogenated oil. However, if the food item were already in production, they were going to be allowed to continue making it, no matter how bad for us it was. And if particularly or partially hydrogenated oil is bad for us, how about completely hydrogenated oil? Another thing we look for now is canola oil. What the heck is a canola? Go look it up. There's no such thing. You'll find canola oil as a product, but you won't find anything called a canola. The name canola comes from a contraction of Canada and oil. The big reason why canola oil is bad for you is 90% of it comes from genetically modified plants. Some say eating GMOs is a leading cause of kidney, liver, and neurological problems in the body. GMOs are not natural. Scientists sitting in a lab somewhere splice together two things and create a new and scary product. They like to refer to this as Frankenstein science. Aspartame is a deadly poison that was approved for human consumption the same day that John Ashcroft, the CEO of Monsanto, became Secretary of State. You think there might have been a little underhanded dealing going on there? And last, but not the worst, is fluoride. It's in all kinds of things. They put it in toothpaste. They put it in our drinking water. I decided to focus on fluoride this week. I might delve into the other forms of poison at a later time. In 1901, Dr. Mackay, a dentist in Colorado, noticed that kids had black spots on their teeth. He wondered why so many kids had these not-so-attractive gnashers. We're not talking black like they had just eaten an entire box of Oreos, just a bit of discoloration. Purely cosmetic. There were no health problems associated with the discoloration, they just looked a bit off. McKay thought there might have been something in the drinking water that was causing this tooth color to show up. He tried to test the water, but he could find no problems there. The water causation theory did get a gigantic boost in 1923. That year, McKay went to Oakley, Idaho. Parents had noticed peculiar brown stains on their children's teeth. The parents told McKay that the stains began appearing shortly after Oakley constructed a communal water pipe that ran for 5 miles from a spring. McKay analyzed the water, but found nothing suspicious in it. He advised the town leaders to abandon the pipeline altogether and use another nearby spring as a water source. As the years went by, the discoloration went away, so McKay thought he was on the right track, but he still could find nothing in the water. McKay and Dr. Grover Krimpf of the United States Public Health Service traveled to Bauxite, Arkansas, which was a company town owned by the Aluminum Company of America. Kids in this town were developing black spots there as well. The mottled enamel disorder was prevalent among the kids of Bauxite, but non-existent in any towns outside a 5-mile limit. Again, McKay analyzed the bauxite water supply, but found nothing that was causing the spots. As I said earlier, there were no health problems being reported, only a tooth discoloration. But as a dentist, McKay wanted to see what was causing it, so he kept digging. Eventually, McKay and Kempf published a report on their findings that wound up on the desk of Alcoa's chief chemist, H.V. Churchill, at company headquarters in Pennsylvania. For those of you that don't know this, Alcoa is a major aluminum production company. Churchill, who had spent the past few years trying to refute the connection between aluminum cookware and many illnesses, now he had to worry that this report might provide fresh ammunition for Alcoa's detractors. So he decided to conduct his own test of the water at Bauxite. Working for a Jagundis chemical company, he had access to neat toys like photospectrography analysis. Churchill asked an assistant to gather a sample at the Bauxite water supply and analyze it. After several days, the assistant reported a surprising piece of news. The town's water had high levels of sodium fluoride. Churchill did what any lead scientist would do. He blamed the underling for contaminating the water sample. So the water was analyzed again, and again it showed high levels of sodium fluoride. Water samples were collected from Colorado and analyzed, and they all came up showing calcium fluoride in the water. And the folks living in Colorado seemed to have less tooth decay than folks living in other parts of the country. McKay thought this might be a good thing. So, fluoride causes your teeth to have black spots, but you'll have fewer cavities. Calcium fluoride is a natural occurring substance, whereas sodium fluoride is a toxic waste byproduct caused by the manufacture of things like aluminum. It was considered to be a toxic substance that needed to be disposed of in a hazardous landfill. Later on in life, it became a big moneymaker during the 50s and 60s when this waste substance began showing up in people's drinking water. At the end of the Second World War, the United States government sent Charles Eliot Perkins, a research worker in chemistry, biochemistry, psychology, and pathology, to take charge of the vast Forbin chemical plants in Germany. The good folks at Forbin had worked for Adolf Hitler, manufacturing things like Zyklon B, which was used to kill people in the death camps all over Europe. While there, Perkins was told by German chemists of a scheme which had been worked out by them during the war and had been adopted by the German military. The scientists at Farben told Perkins about another chemical they had been working with. The scheme was to control the population in any given area through mass medication of the drinking water. In this scheme, sodium fluoride occupied a prominent place. The water would be treated with fluoride and then distributed amongst the people to keep them under control. Repeated doses of infinitesimal amounts of fluoride will in time reduce an individual's power to resist domination by slowly poisoning and necrotizing a certain area of the brain, and will thus make him submissive to the will of those who wish to govern him. Long before the Germans and Russians were trying to kill each other, they'd been sharing scientific papers back and forth. Some of these papers had come from Farben Chemicals in Germany. It is interesting that Dr. George Estabrooks, an advisor to the United States government on hypnotism and psychological behavior control, later became chairman of the Department of Psychology at Colgate University. Internationally, Colgate was and remains today the most ardent producer and advocate for fluoridated toothpaste. The use of chemicals by the government to modify behavior of selected population groups is nothing new. During the first two world wars, bromides were administered to servicemen to dim the libido in an attempt to inhibit forays into local bordellos. That would be consorting with women of negotiable affections, as Terry Pratchett would say. When I was in basic training at Fort Knox, the old story of our food being laced with saltpeter ran rampant. Guys thought we were being doused with chemicals to keep us from becoming frisky. No, there was nothing in the food. It was just a little something known as stress. Being kept awake too long and fed a high-starch diet didn't help at all. The real fun came about when guys found they were having a hard time going to the bathroom. Number 2. It was getting a bit scary for them, so they ran down to the PX and bought some laxatives and proceeded to overmedicate themselves. Later that day, it was unsafe to enter the latrine. These boys weren't constipated. They were suffering from travel constipation, which is caused by a change in diet and sleep pattern. It is self-remedying after just a few days. All the laxatives did was make things runny. Number 2 became number 3. Oh, back to the fluoride. In a letter abstracted from Fluoridation and Lawlessness, published by the Committee for Mental Health and National Security from the aforementioned Charles Perkins, U.S.-appointed post-war head of IG Farben to the Lee Foundation for Nutritional Research in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, from October 2nd, 1954. He said, "We are told by the fanatical ideologists who are advocating the fluoridation of the water supply in this country that their purpose is to reduce the incidence of tooth decay in children. And it is the plausibility of this excuse, plus the gullibility of the public and the culpability of the public officials, that is responsible for the present spread of artificial water fluoridation in this country. However, and I want to make this very definite and positive, the real reason behind water fluoridation is not to benefit children's teeth. If this were the real reason, there are many ways in which it could be done, which are much easier, cheaper, and far more effective. The real purpose behind water fluoridation is to reduce the resistance of the masses to domination, control, and loss of liberty. Well, think about it. Instead of putting fluoride in our drinking water so it's passed through our bodies, it should be used more like mouthwash. Put it in your mouth, swish it around, and then spit it out. When receiving fluoride treatments at the dentist's office, the patient is always told to spit out all the fluoride and then rinse their mouth several times. Why do you suppose they do it that way at the dentist's office and then they put the fluoride in your drinking water? The substance referred to as fluoride is a misnomer. There's no such substance listed in the periodic chart of the elements, nor in the CRC handbook, nor in the pharmaceutical industry, the illustrious Merck Index. Instead, we find a gas called fluorine, and from the use of this gas in various industries, such as aluminum manufacture and nuclear industry, certain toxic byproducts are created, which have captured fluorine molecules. One such toxic poisonous byproduct is called sodium fluoride, which, according to the Merck Index, is primarily used as rat and cockroach poison, and is also the active ingredient in most toothpaste, and an additive to drinking water. That deserves repeating. It is used in rat and roach poison and toothpaste. I don't know about you, but I don't want to brush my teeth with rat poison. Did you know that sodium fluoride is also one of the basic ingredients in both Prozac and sarin nerve gas? The same sarin nerve gas that terrorists released on a crowded Japanese subway train. March 20th, 1995, the Ayum Shinrikyo cult released sarin gas in the Tokyo subway system, resulting in the deaths of 13 people and injury of 5,000 others. Had they not tried to spread the gas out over such a large area, they would have killed a lot more people. Their stated purpose for killing people was to cause the people of Japan to put the emperor back in power. These folks wanted to be ruled by the royals once more. The main ingredient in sarin gas is sodium fluoride. Yeah, let's put it in our drinking water. Sodium fluoride is nothing more than a hazardous waste byproduct of the nuclear and aluminum industries. In addition to being the primary ingredient in rat and cockroach poison, it is also the main ingredient in anesthetics, hypnotic and psychiatric drugs, as well as military-grade nerve gas. Let's put it in children's toothpaste, shall we? Some of the things you'll hear are being repeated several times. I didn't want to slice up the reports too much, so I just left in the redundant items. That's a good way to get people to remember them, too. Sodium fluoride has its own hazardous substance category sheet. Any of you safety officers out there know what these are. The sheet tells how to handle a spill involving sodium fluoride. You have to get immediate medical attention for folks exposed to it by inhalation or contact. And then let's go and water our lawns with it. Historically, this substance was quite expensive for chemical companies to dispose of. But in the 50s and 60s, Alcoa and the entire aluminum industry, with a vast overabundance of toxic waste, somehow sold the FDA and our government on the insane idea of buying this poison at a 20,000% markup and then injecting it into our water supplies as well as into the nation's toothpaste and dental products. A 20,000% markup. That's not too shabby. Consider also that when sodium fluoride is injected into our drinking water, its level is approximately 1 part per million. But since we only drink about half of 1% of the total water supply, the hazardous chemical literally goes down the drain, and the chemical industry has not only a free hazardous waste disposal system, but we're also paying them for the process. We've been kind of told a lie. The folks running the chemical companies sold this stuff to governments all over the country, and then these governments put it in our water. It's for the good of our children, they say. Make their teeth stronger, they say. But they lied. The fluoride added to our water is a waste product of aluminum and phosphate fertilizer processing. And it's not even calcium fluoride that appears naturally in water, but sodium fluoride, which is a whole different animal, loaded to the gills with bad news. In fact, sodium fluoride has no good news, except for the few suspicious reports by the people selling the stuff. A study after research study proves that sodium fluoride does not protect your teeth, and it does a number on your bones and other parts of your body, to include the thyroid gland. Your thyroid gland produces the hormone that controls your metabolism. A thyroid hormone gets its power from iodine. This is why, to protect against nuclear fallout, they give you iodine tablets. This is only one of many substances needed, but it is still on the list. A fluoride and iodine look a lot alike chemically. When your body sees fluoride, it thinks it's iodine. So the body tries to use fluoride as if it were iodine. The thyroid gets overwhelmed with fluoride, which pushes the iodine out. Now your thyroid is full of a substance that it can't use to manufacture hormones. The hormones needed to run your body is no longer there. You go to the doctor and you get a blood test, which are not very sophisticated and cannot distinguish between useless fluoride and potent iodine. The test will say you don't have any problem. To the test, the thyroid hormone is thyroid hormone, whether it's functioning or not. You'll hear the doctor's famous phrase, "You're fine," and you'll know that he's not telling the truth, but you probably won't know what to do about it. What can you do if you suspect your thyroid is full of fluoride? First thing you want to do is stop using anything with fluoride in it. We buy toothpaste without fluoride. It's hard to find, but it's worth looking for. We don't drink tap water. I put 2 filters on our house. One filters everything coming into the house, so our grass isn't coated in poison. Then I put a second 2-stage filter under the sink, so the water I make coffee with is double filtered. I'm going to take a brief pause right here, play some commercials. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to Arkanasa Radio. If you need to squint and hold things out at arm's length to see them, maybe you should get your eyes checked. Del Norte Optical, 107 Calle del Norte, is right across from the Embassy Suites. Stop squinting and start seeing. Did you hear a bump in the night and you think it just might be a ghost? Contact the Laredo Paranormal Research Society at laredoparanormal@hotmail.com. That's the LPRS for all your otherworldly needs. Do you have skin? Would you like to take better care of it? Call Lourdes James, independent beauty consultant, and set up an appointment. Call 723-3019. Coffee makes the world go round. And around here, we have the Organic Man Coffee Trike, 4501 McPherson, Suite number 9. If you're not looking for coffee, try their tea. It's the best in town. And remember, life is too short to drink bad coffee. This is Arkanasa Radio you've been listening to. And welcome back to the show. Fluoride is a carcinogenic substance. Fluoride was found to be an equivocal carcinogen by the National Cancer Institute Toxicology Report. Further studies by the New Jersey Department of Health have now confirmed a 6.9-fold increase in bone cancer in young males. Earlier studies had found a 5% increase in all types of cancer in fluoridated communities. Fluoride has been linked to hip fractures. Drinking fluoridated water will double the number of hip fractures for both elderly men and women. Extremely low levels of water fluoridation, 0.1 part per million, still produces statistically significant increased hip fractures. Why? Because it causes our bodies to get brittle. Our bones are made from calcium. The fluoride interferes with the bone growth and development. Infertility in women was found to increase with water fluoridation. The Food and Drug Administration scientists reported a close correlation between decreasing total fertility rates in women between the ages of 10 and 49 and increased fluoride levels. I didn't know 10-year-olds had fertility rates, but that's what the FDA said. They also reported that a review of all of the animal studies done to date show that fluoride adversely affects fertility in most animal species. Have you ever heard of the Georgia Guidestones? Built by the Rosicrucians back in 1980 in Elbert County, Georgia. The stones are carved in 8 different languages. They tell us how to run the planet. One of the things they say is to maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Right now, we're at 7.7 billion. So we're about 7 billion over the maximum occupation required by the stones. What do you do with those extra 7 billion people? Kill them off? Or make it so that they can't make any more people? Opaque white spots and brown ugly teeth caused by fluoride is called fluorosis. Fluorosis currently affects 1 out of 5 or more children in this nation, although it is rarely seen in California. California is the least fluoridated state, with less than 16% of the population drinking artificially fluoridated water. So California is doing something right. Fluoride is not effective in reducing tooth decay. In 1986-87, a study involving 39,207 children aged 5 to 17 showed no statistical difference in decay of teeth from using non-fluoridated as opposed to fluoridated water. No correlation could be found between the level of fluoride in water and dental problems. If you search for anything on fluoride, you'll find all kinds of papers howling about how we just have to have fluoride in our drinking water for the good of, you guessed it, the children. There appears to be a genetically related increase in tooth decay for Hispanics, Indians, and Asians. It's in the genes. Decay is also related to the educational and economical levels of the parents. If your parents teach you to brush your teeth and do it correctly, you'll have less tooth decay. If you use too much fluoride, your teeth will become brittle and crack. And boy, does that hurt. I lost 2 teeth due to fluorosis. They cracked right up into the root. I had to have 2 root canals. Oh boy, was that ever fun. I didn't know at the time that I was using fluoride toothpaste. I hadn't done hours and hours of research yet, and now I know, and so do you. Much of the original proof that fluoride is safe for humans in low doses was generated by a program of atomic bomb scientists who had been secretly ordered to provide evidence useful in litigation against defense contractors for fluoride injuries to citizens. See, the first lawsuit against the U.S. atomic bomb program were not over radiation, but over fluoride dosage. Human studies were required. Bomb program researchers played a leading role in the design and implementation of the most extensive U.S. study of the health effects of fluoridating public water, conducted in Newburgh, New York in 1945 to 1956. Then, in a classified operation code-named Program F, they secretly gathered and analyzed blood and tissue samples from Newburgh citizens with the cooperation of state health department personnel. The original secret version obtained by reporters of the 1948 study published by Program F scientists in the Journal of the American Dental Association shows that evidence of adverse health effects from fluoride was censored by the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission, considered the most powerful of Cold War agencies for reasons of national security. The bomb program's fluoride safety study were conducted at the University of Rochester, a site of one of the most notorious human radiation experiments of the Cold War, in which unsuspecting hospital patients were injected with toxic doses of radioactive plutonium. The fluoride studies were conducted with the same ethical mindset in which national security is far more important than people's health. The U.S. government's conflict of interest and its motive to prove fluoride was safe has not until now been made clear to the general public in a furious debate over water fluoridation, which has gone on since the 1950s. The civilian researchers and health professionals and journalists are just now beginning to find out the truth. The declassified documents resonate with a growing body of scientific evidence and a chorus of questions about the health effects of fluoride in the environment. Human exposure to fluoride has mushroomed since World War II, due not only to the fluoridation of water and toothpaste, but to environmental pollution by major industries from aluminum to pesticides. Fluoride is a critical industrial chemical. The impact can be seen, literally, in the smiles of children. Large numbers of U.S. young people, up to 80% in some cities, now have dental fluorosis, the first visible sign of excessive fluoride exposure, according to U.S. National Research Council. What you will see are whitish flecks or spots, particularly in the front teeth, or dark spots or stripes in more severe cases. Less known to the public is that fluoride also accumulates in your bones. The teeth are windows to what's happening in the bones, explains Paul Connet, professor of chemistry at St. Lawrence University in New York. In recent years, pediatric bone specialists have expressed alarm about an increase in stress fractures among young people. Connet and other scientists are concerned that fluoride, linked to bone damage by studies since the 30s, may be a contributing factor. The declassified documents add urgency. Much of the original proof that low-dose fluoride is safe for children's bones came from the U.S. bomb program scientists, according to this investigation. Now, researchers who have reviewed these declassified documents fear that Cold War national security considerations may have prevented objective scientific evaluation of vital public health questions concerning fluoride. They say that information was buried, concluded Dr. Philip Mullinex, former head of the toxicology at Forsyth Dental Center in Boston, and now a critic of the fluoridation. Animal studies Mullinex and co-workers conducted at Forsyth in the early 1990s indicate that fluoride was a powerful central nervous system toxin and might adversely affect human brain function, even at low doses. New epidemiology evidence from China adds support showing a correlation between low-dose fluoride exposure and diminished IQ in children. Mullinex's results were published in 1995 in a reputable peer-reviewed scientific journal. Not convinced yet? Well, then let me tell you even more reasons to stop ingesting fluoride. Fluoride attacks your pineal gland. Some of you are thinking of the wrong thing. Pineal gland, deep in your brain. Some people call it your third eye. The pineal gland controls your inner clock. It produces good sleep. It works with your adrenal glands to handle stress. It keeps the thymus gland fed and cared for, and it communicates 24/7 with the rest of the endocrine system about how things should be going. Fluoride calcifies your pineal gland into a non-functioning clump of rock. Have you noticed how stressed people are getting lately? I think maybe this is due to toxic effects of fluoride, maybe? Like the rest of the body, our bones constantly renew themselves, adding new bone cells and removing the old dying cells. Fluoride interferes with the adding new bone cells part. Sodium fluoride contains heavy metals, including aluminum, which throw a monkey wrench into most of what our body needs to do. Adding to the mess, if aluminum can find some magnesium, one of the really good parts in the system, it latches on to magnesium where it is taken to your brain. The American Dental Association finally came out with an advisory telling parents not to give their babies fluoridated water because it can cause brain damage. But they still back fluoride. Don't give babies fluoridated water because it's bad for them, but let's go ahead and put fluoride in the drinking water. The government classifies sodium fluoride as an environmentally hazardous waste. Anybody handling it must wear hazmat protective gear. Dumping it into a river is a crime. Why then is it okay to put it in the water we drink, we bathe in, we swim in? You can't dump it in a stream, but you can dump it in the city water supply. Consider this. Putting sodium fluoride into the water supply forces people to involuntarily take a medication they don't need for no reason with no controls. If a doctor were to do this with a medication, he would lose his or her medical license in a very short period. Fluoridated toothpaste requires a warning label to alert parents to call poison control if a child eats a pea-sized glob of toothpaste. This contains the same amount of fluoride as 1 glass of water. Fluoride worsens many health situations, including autism. Most of Europe's enacted laws to stop the use of fluoride in their water, and they report great benefits from doing so. Now it looks as if Canada is going to do the same. There are only 8 countries in the world now using fluoride. Unfortunately, the United States is one of them. Fluoride's corrosive properties are well known, yet they're ignored by the industry propagandists. The warning label on the product screams corrosive. Yet in the past, this was never taken into account when proponents for fluoridation did their screaming about preventing tooth decay. While fluoride's tooth decay prevention is widely disputed, the corrosive actions of fluoride are not. With our water system in financial disarray, it makes one wonder how much of our pipe replacement is due to the corrosive actions of the added fluoride. It only makes sense that when you put a highly corrosive agent into a system to run through the pipes and fittings, that the pipes and fittings are going to be affected. How much money has been squandered repairing and replacing pipes and fittings from our 44-year use of fluoridation? Just another hidden cost to fluoridation aside from the physical toll it has taken on the people that drink the water. You've heard that expression, right? He drank the water? Well, kind of like Kool-Aid. Same effect. Actually, it wasn't Kool-Aid. It was, oh shoot, I can't even think of the darn thing. Jim Jones, they didn't use Kool-Aid. Now, I'll think of it when the show is over. The effects of cattle. Well, somebody's going to send me a text after the show and tell me what that was. Flavor-Aid. Okay, you don't have to send me the text. Jim Jones did not use Kool-Aid. He used Flavor-Aid. But Flavor-Aid, which is no longer manufactured, and then somehow Kool-Aid took the hit for the poisoning of all those people. Getting back to the show. The effect of cattle grazing on grass with too much fluoride is a bone brittling and tooth mottling disease called fluorosis. Plants can also be damaged by fluoride, as gladiolas were years ago that were growing near a fertilizer factory. This was before pollution control devices were installed in the phosphate industry. Fluoride in drinking water was originally added in the 1940s to prevent tooth decay. Studies have now shown that fluoride causes dental fluorosis in 10% of the population. Even more disturbing than the cosmetic impact that fluoride can have on teeth, Research is also linking fluoride to increased risks of cancer, particularly bone cancer, gene mutations, reproductive problems, neurotoxicity, bone fluorosis, and just to name a few. In fact, in 1999, the EPA's headquarters Union of Scientists took a stand opposing fluoridation of drinking water supplies. The fluoride used for water fluoridation does not have FDA approval and is considered by the FDA as an unapproved drug. The proper use of any drug requires an understanding of how much is too much. Since fluoride is already in many foods and beverages, an estimated total intake of existing fluoride amounts is imperative. Research shows fluoridation is unnecessary since we already receive 300 or more % of the American Dental Association's recommended daily amount. Nowadays, toothpaste comes with a warning label. Most folks don't know this because they never read the label. On a tube of toothpaste, it says, "Warning, keep out of the reach of children under 6 years of age. If you accidentally swallow more than is used for brushing, seek professional assistance or contact a poison control center immediately." As with other toothpaste, if irritation occurs, discontinue use. All that's on the back of a tube of toothpaste. You might want to go look. The above guidelines are the typical warning labels and directions for toothpaste. The ingredients found in most toothpaste are, according to the FDA, hydrated silica, sorbitol, sodium saccharin, titanium dioxide, glycerin, sodium lauryl, laureth sulfate, and sodium fluoride. The sodium fluoride is a colorless crystalline salt used in fluoridation of water, in treatment of tooth decay, and as an insecticide and disinfectant. A sodium fluoride is used in toothpaste to harden the enamel of teeth and prevent tooth decay. That's what they'll tell you. The FDA lists fluoride as an unapproved drug, and the EPA lists fluoride as a contaminant. A fluoride has never received an FDA approval and is considered to be toxic waste byproduct of fertilization industry. A fluoride has been linked to many harmful health effects, including Alzheimer's, kidney damage, gastrointestinal problems, cancer, genetic damage, neurological impairment, bone and tooth decay, arthritis, and osteoporosis. A recently published Harvard University meta-analysis funded by the National Institute of Health has concluded that children who live in areas with highly fluoridated water have significantly lower IQ scores than those who live in low fluoride areas or no fluoride areas. A recent report from the U.S. National Research Council concluded that adverse effects of high fluoride concentrations in drinking water may be of concern and that additional research is warranted. Fluoride may cause neurotoxicity in laboratory animals, including effects on learning and memory. To summarize the available literature, I performed a systematic review and meta-analysis of published studies on increased fluoride exposure in drinking water and neurodevelopmental delays. They specifically targeted studies carried out in rural China that have not been widely disseminated, thus complementing the studies that have been included in previous reviews and risk assessment reports. The findings from the meta-analysis of 27 studies published over 22 years suggest an inverse association between high fluoride exposure and children's intelligence. The results suggest that fluoride may be a developmental neurotoxicant that affects brain development at exposure much below those that can cause toxicity in adults. In other words, it doesn't take a whole lot to mess up a kid's brain when it comes to fluoride. Supporting the plausibility of these findings, rats exposed to 1 part per million of water fluoride for 1 year showed morphological alterations in the brain and increased levels of aluminum in brain tissue compared to the control animals. In conclusion, the results support the possibility of adverse effects of fluoride exposure on children's neurodevelopment. Future research should be formally evaluated, dose-response relations based on individual level measures of exposure over time, including more precise prenatal exposure assessment and more extensive standardized method of neurobehavioral performance, in addition to improving assessment and control of potential confounders. Too many big words there. Reported effects of fluoride on your brain include reduction in nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. Those are important. Don't make me have to say them again. Nicotinic acetylcholine. Yeah, you got to have them. Trust me. I remember reading about them when I was taking paramedic classes. Damage to your hippocampus. The hippocampus is not a college for hippos, although that would be funny to see. The hippocampus comes from the Greek word for seahorse. It is a major component of the brain of humans and other vertebrates. Humans and other mammals have 2 hippocampi, 1 in each side of the brain. The hippocampus is part of the limbic system and plays important roles in the consolidation of information from short-term memory to long-term memory and is spatial memory that enables navigation. In other words, that's why some people don't need compasses. Oh, that's what Tim Allen used to say. Yes, there's a Steve Allen who is a comedian, and there's a Tim Allen who's a comedian. Anyway, some more bad things from fluoride are formation of beta amyloid plaques. This is the classic brain abnormality of Alzheimer's disease. Reproduction in lipid content. Damage to Purkinje cells. Exacerbation of lesions induced by iodine deficiency. Remember, the fluoride squeezes the iodine out, and then your body starts to have all kinds of problems. That's why they put iodine in salt, so that you get your daily recommended dosage of iodine when you use table salt. Some people didn't know that. Look at a box of salt. It says iodized salt. That means it has iodine in it. Impaired antioxidant defense system. That means that your body can't recognize toxins and deal with them anymore. You develop an increased uptake of aluminum. An accumulation of fluoride in your pineal gland. What is perhaps most surprising is that the harmful effects of fluoride have been known by conventional medical organizations for over half a century. The Journal of American Medical Association is stated in their September 18, 1943 issue that fluorides are general photoplasmic poisons that change the permeability of cell membrane by certain enzymes. And an editorial published in the Journal of American Dental Association, October 1, 1944, stated, Drinking water, oh, that's my timer that I'm hearing in my headphones. Drinking water contains as little as 1.2 parts per million fluoride will cause developmental disturbances. We cannot run the risk of producing such serious systemic disturbances. Potentialities for harm outweigh any good. Part of the problem is that an accumulative toxin that over time can lead to significant health problems that are not immediately linked to fluoride overexposure. In 2005 paper entitled Fluoride, a Modern Toxic Waste, Lida Lee, a PhD, writes, Fluoride, the aging factor, documents the cumulative effect of tissue damage by fluoride, commonly seen as aging, collagen damage, skin rashes and acne, gastrointestinal disorders, and many other conditions, including osteoporosis. That's when your backbone curves and your bones get brittle. The U.S. Center for Disease Control and Safe Water Foundation reported that 30 to 50,000 excess deaths occur in the United States each year in areas in which the water contains only 1 part per million fluoride. Fluoride suppresses the immune system. Fluoride inhibits the movement of white blood cells by up to 70%, thereby decreasing your ability to reach their target. Yamayanus, which that's got to be a Greek name. Oh boy. Yamouyiannis. Oh boy. I'm not even going to try that one. Anyway, this guy from Greece, I think, cites 15 references in his pamphlet, Lifesaver's Guide to Fluoridation, that documents immunosuppressive effects of as little as 10% of the amount of fluoride used in fluoridated water. Immunosuppressive effects run the gamut from a cold that won't go away to increased risk of cancer and other infectious diseases. Studies have shown that fluoride toxicity can lead to a wide variety of health problems, including increased lead absorption, disruptive synthesis of collagen, that's that stuff that keeps your skin soft, hyperactivity and or lethargy, the kids with hyper ADHD and all those new conditions that didn't used to exist, muscle disorders, thyroid disease, arthritis, dementia, bone fractures, lowered thyroid function, bone cancer, inactivity. It inactivates 62 enzymes and inhibits more than 100. Inhibited formation of antibodies, genetic damage of cells and death, increased tumor and cancer rates, disrupted immune system, damaged sperm, and increased infertility. Suppressed science, fluoride link to cancer. Long-lost research linked fluoride to cancer has resurfaced in a Dutch film clip featuring Dr. Dean Burke, who in 1937 co-founded the U.S. National Cancer Institute and headed its cytochemistry department for more than 30 years. In the taped interview, he equates water fluoridation to public murder, referred to a study that had been done on the 10 largest U.S. cities with fluoridation compared to the 10 largest cities without. The study demonstrated that death from cancer abruptly rose in as little as a year or two after fluoridation began. This and other studies linked fluoride to cancer were government ordered but were quickly buried once fluoride was found to be linked to dramatic increases in cancer. The Battle Institute released the results of its study of fluorides in rats in April of 1989. The study showed a dose-dependent relationship between the incidence of oral cancerous tumors and fluorides. After learning this, the National Cancer Institute did a study and found that exposure to fluoridation increases, so does the incidence of oral cancer, sometimes by as much as 50%. You ever wonder where so many cancerous growths come from? It's in the water. So, what can you do? Well, you want to start by getting rid of toothpaste with fluoride in it. Stop buying it. Stop using it. Stop poisoning your kids. Me and my wife buy something called Tom's from Maine without fluoride. Now, be careful. You can get Tom's from Maine with fluoride, but you can get it without. You got to look at the label. It says in nice big letters, without fluoride. It's hard to find, but it's worth buying. We drink bottled water, spring water to be clear, not processed and not containing anything but water. We don't buy smart water. We don't buy flavored water. We just buy spring water. And since we're in Texas, yeah, we get Ozarka. Maybe they'll send me some money. Nah, I doubt it. We have 2 water filters on our house and 1 on our RV. We read ingredient labels on everything we eat or drink. That's the hard part. As me and my wife go up and down the aisles at the grocery store, we read all of the ingredients. And if the product contains fluoride, aspartame, hydrogenated anything, high fructose corn syrup, which is also called corn sugar, genetically modified organisms or GMOs, or canola oil, we don't buy it. It takes us twice as long to buy groceries, but we both feel so much better once we're done. What with it being Thanksgiving, I decided to make some pies. So I went to the store to buy the ready-made pie crusts, because if you've ever made pie crust, you'll know those things aren't easy. Well, I looked at the different manufacturers of pie crust, and they all had one thing in common. They all contained hydrogenated oil. So, what did I do? I went home and I made my own pie crusts. It's a pain in the neck. It's a lot of work. But I'm not about to poison myself or my wife or my relatives. You should see about improving the things you put into your bodies as well. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I hope I didn't scare too many people. Hopefully 1 or 2 of you out there have listened to me and will heed my warning. Read what you're putting into your body and don't put any of those poisons in there. Till next Saturday, this is Chris James for Strange Things. And boy, was this strange.
Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man, they say murder 3? Strange things that happen here, how stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree?